Hello, my name's Gigi and I'm 29 years old. My husband, Saul, and I just became new homeowners, and yeah, I know what you might be thinking. Owning a house in this economy? At that age? How did you do that? Well, I wish I could tell you that it was all a matter of hard work, but it actually was a gift that my husband's grandfather, Robbie, gave to us. But my mother-in-law, Jen, who was staying with us, had a lot to say about it, and that did not go so well for her. Before I tell you my story, I feel like it's important to give you a little backstory about my husband's family and how we came to be in a relationship. For starters, I have an awesome relationship with Saul's recently retired grandfather. Yes, grandfather. His name is Robbie. Robbie had single-handedly raised Saul's mother, Jen. His wife had died during childbirth and he loved her too much to even find anyone else. He has admitted to Saul and me that he felt bad that Jen never got to have a mother, so he spoiled her senselessly. Robbie is a pretty wealthy man. He comes from family wealth and he's never afraid to splurge on the people he loves. So when I say that Jen was spoiled when she was growing up, I mean it. Jen always got what she wanted, and that attitude carried on into adulthood because Robbie could never say no to her. Jen had gotten pregnant when she was 17. The father ran away because he wanted nothing to do with the child, and Jen never revealed who the father was either. Robbie was not thrilled that she got pregnant, but ultimately decided that he would stand by her regardless of whatever decision she made. When she had Saul, she cared for him for a year or so and ultimately decided that a child weighed her down too much. She left him in Robbie's care. Robbie was upset that his daughter was not following through with her responsibilities. At the same time, he was glad he got to have a second chance at raising a child. He was a little more strict with Saul. He still spoiled Saul, but not to the same extent that he had done for Jen. Saul had always considered Robbie to be his dad because he was the one who raised him. Saul's mom, Jen, had disappeared to some college somewhere and then worked someplace also for the next 10 years. And when she came back, she tried to insert herself in Saul's life as his mom. Saul didn't like it, but he didn't oppose her because he had heard of how stubborn she was with getting the things she wanted. When it came time to move to college, Saul moved out and Robbie supported him. It was at college that I met Saul. We met because we had friends in the same circles and we just clicked instantly. It didn't take long for us to start dating, and if I really recall correctly, after 6 months of dating, Saul introduced me to Robbie. Robbie and I got along really well, and I was happy that Saul had such a positive influence in his life. The one person who did not like me was, you guessed it, Jen. Now, after about a year of dating, Saul decided that we should meet his mom because he wanted to introduce me to her. I have a pretty deadly peanut allergy, so Saul informed her in advance. When we got to her place, she barely looked my way or even talked to me. The only time she did was when it was time to eat. She had this evil look in her eye that made me feel a little on edge, but I ignored it. Just as I was about to put a spoonful of food in my mouth, Saul literally leapt off his seat and knocked the spoon out of my hand. What the hell? Why'd you do that? It has peanuts in it. Jen, what were you trying to do? I told you she's allergic. Oh, come on. It's just a peanut allergy. She needs to grow up. Are you stupid? Excuse me? That's no way to talk to your mother. Apologize now. Why the hell should I? You almost killed Gigi. There's no need to make such a big deal about this. It's a tiny allergy, right, Gigi? Actually, no. I almost did die on multiple occasions just from cross-contamination. Ugh, what a child. Dad, tell Saul to apologize to me for disrespectfully talking to me. Absolutely not. Saul asked you not to do one thing, and that's exactly what you did. To top it off, you're still ignoring the fact that you could have killed the girl. Why did you do that? You want to know? Fine. I don't like her. But you don't even know her. Yeah, but she's taking my son away from me and I don't like that. So, why don't you and Gigi head out? Here's some cash. Go get yourself some good non-deathly lunch. I'll speak to Jen. I was shaken up. Never in my life had anyone wanted to outright kill me. And to hear Jen say that she didn't like me just like that? Wow, that hurt. Sol was furious at Jen, and once he cooled down, he apologized to me over and over again. Of course, I didn't need him to apologize to me because he did nothing wrong. Still, after that, two things happened. First, Sol stopped speaking to her. He cut off all contact with her. Second, Robbie cut off financial support for Jen. He kicked her out of his house and told her to live by herself. I was sure that only would have made her hate me more, but I realized that I wouldn't have to see her again until absolutely necessary, so I didn't mind. After that, life went back to normal for Sol and me. Once a month, we would go out to either lunch or dinner with Robbie, and that was about all the contact we had with Sol's family. Sol and I knew that we were the ones for each other, yet we decided to wait until we were both financially stable enough to get married. When we finally got engaged, we waited for another 1.5 years to plan out our details of our wedding. When it came time to send out invites, we debated sending one to Jen, but in the end, we still sent her one. I will admit we were glad to see that she hadn't RSVP'd us. I guess Jen hated me way too much to attend her own son's wedding. Anyway, it was still a grand time for Sol and I. Robbie had been too busy traveling around the world to attend our wedding. We didn't mind that because honestly, that man deserved it. He worked super hard all his life and he raised not only his daughter but his grandson too. When he finally came back, he told us that he had a surprise for us. Sol and I were excited because we were expecting Robbie to give us some souvenirs or even some snacks or candies from the countries he visited. Robbie told us to come over to his place for dinner one night. Dinner with Robbie is always a good time. He told us all about his little adventures on his trip. Sol and I were a mess of tears from laughing too hard. Finally, after dinner, Robbie decided to reveal his surprise to us. He placed a pair of keys in front of Sol and I. We looked at him in confusion. "What's this about, Papa?" "These are the keys to your new house." "What? Are you being serious?" "As serious as a heart attack." But why?" "I wasn't able to attend your wedding and I didn't give you a wedding gift either." "So you bought us a house?" "I couldn't think of a better gift. Am I wrong?" "No, although I will say you are one unhinged man." "Ha, that's the truth." "Thanks a lot, Papa." "Of course, although there is one small hiccup." "What is it?" "Well, Jen has been running low on finances and she reached out to me about helping her out. I told her I'd put up with her one last time, but if she does or says anything out of line, she's going to get thrown out." "Oh, so I'll have to meet Mom?" "Yeah, and put up with her for another 3 months." "Uh-oh." "I know, it's not the most ideal, but she'll stay with you guys for a little while. She promised me she'll be on her best behavior, so I don't think there'll be too much to worry about." "All right, that's doable." Robbie had done us a huge favor by buying us a house. We could use the money we usually spend on rent to save up even more. So it felt really wrong to tell him that we wouldn't want Jen staying with us. I sensed how skeptical Sol was too, and it made me feel better that I wasn't the only one who wasn't feeling too good about the arrangement. Robbie went on to explain to us that he was going to be visiting a friend for a while next month and that he had allowed his other friend's son to stay at his place until he came back, which was why he couldn't put Jen up himself. Which was fair, but still, Sol and I decided to move in as soon as possible because we wanted to at least have some time in our new house before Jen came over. Robbie also was there with us while we moved in. He helped us settle in and as best he could. He let us get used to our new place for a week before telling us that Jen was going to move in the day after the next. I was queasy with nerves. The last time I saw Jen, she tried to give me an anaphylactic shock. I did not want to live with her. It would be exhausting to constantly be on guard in my own home. But I guess it was one small price to pay for a beautiful house that was our own. Robbie was with us when Jen brought all her stuff with her. We planned to have dinner together, so I spent most of the day just cooking and preparing. It was a great way to expend my nervous energy. Jen happily greeted Sol and asked him a bunch of questions about himself while she just ignored me altogether. When we walked into the house, Jen looked around for a while before deciding to talk. What a house! I know, right? Which one of you earns more money? Gigi. Why does that matter? First of all, that's embarrassing. You need to earn more than her. Secondly, this is an ugly house. Excuse me? Mom, that's unnecessary. I can see that you guys really struggled to buy this place. It really is the ugliest place I've stepped foot in. That's really rude to say, especially when you'll be living here because we let you. I know, it's a shame that this is where I have to live until I move. You're being very hypocritical. At least we were able to afford a house. You can't even afford to rent a place. You only talk back this way to me because of your wife. If it wasn't for her, you'd have been worshipping the ground I walked on. There's something seriously wrong with you. Okay, that's enough. Let's just get on with dinner. Robbie must not have told Jen that he was the one who bought the house for us. When Jen called the house ugly, I saw Robbie's expression harden, and then she went on to say a lot more stuff, and Robbie looked like he was ready to throw her out. I have to admit that Jen calling our new house ugly hurt. The funniest part was that Sol was the one who was in charge of the interior decorating, and he did a fantastic job at it. If she had known that, I doubt she would have said any of the things that she said. And to hear her insult me again was no fun either. It was kind of sad that I was prepared for it though. She constantly mocked me and insulted me because she always thought that I had taken her son away from her. But I guess she just never realized that her son was avoiding her for the longest time. He just started speaking up because her actions and words began to affect me. Dinner was awkward. Sol and Robbie seemed majorly ticked off from the previous interaction with Jen. And Jen did not seem to pick up on the vibes because she went on to keep trash-talking the house. At some point, though, it just got so funny to me. The fact that she didn't know anything and here she was openly slamming her father and her son. After dinner, Jen told us that she was jet-lagged, which is very funny because she literally flew over from one state over where there's no difference in time zone, and retreated to her room. At that point, Robbie, Sol, and I made our way over to the den where we discussed what had just happened. Well, that was terrible. I swear, if she wasn't my mother, I would have had some very choice words to say. Did you not tell her that you bought this house for us, Robbie? I didn't see why I had to, but I guess that worked in my favor because I got to see if she was going to be any different, which she won't. It's going to be rough living with her. But it'll be okay. It's only another 3 months. She'll be out of our hair before you know it. Hell no, I'm not letting you guys live with a monster like that. The only reason I made this arrangement was because she begged me for a whole month to help her out and promised me over and over again that she had changed. I see no change in her, and I don't want to help her out anymore. Oh, wow. So are you just going to kick her out? Yeah, I don't think it would be that easy. Remember the tantrum she threw when you cut her off financially before? She will not leave this house that easily. I think that issue can be solved pretty easily. We'll just change all the locks in the house so she won't be able to get back in. But she doesn't have her set of keys yet? I've got them right here. Just give them to her tomorrow morning before you guys head to work. I know she'll want to go out and meet some friends. When she gets back, she'll be stuck outside till you come back. That should teach her a lesson." It was nice to have Robbie side with us. If there was one thing that Robbie absolutely hated, it was being ungrateful. That was literally Jen's entire personality. Robbie had tried his hardest to discipline that out of her, but she just never seemed to learn. The next day, I took a day off so I could be there to watch over the locks getting changed. I pretended that I was going out to work in the morning and handed Jen her set of keys. She smirked at me and asked me if I was happy that she would be staying with me. I told her that she was family, so I was more than happy to be able to help her out. She then told me that she was going to make my life hell, and that if I had the audacity to complain to her father about her behavior, she would get in the way of my marriage. I was so close to telling her about the plan because Jen really knew how to get on people's nerves, but I kept my mouth shut and just let Jen say what she wanted to. In the end, I knew that I would be the one who won. I left the house that morning and just drove around for a while. I kept checking and reviewing our security footage to see if Jen left, and about 2 hours after I left the house, she stepped out. I wasn't sure about how long she'd be out, so I contacted the number Robbie had given me and asked the person to get to my place as quickly as possible. I raced home too. By the time I got back home, the person who was going to change the locks was also there. While he busied himself with the locks, I got to packing Jen's stuff. She spent the entire night unpacking her things, but it still took a fairly short amount of time to repack everything. I set her bags outside the main door and along with them attached a copy of the house deed which outlined in it the owner of the house and the buyer of the house. While Saul and I were listed as owners, Robbie was listed as the buyer. Once the man was done changing the locks, he handed me the new keys and left. I quickly got out of the house and drove to a nearby cafe where I kept a keen eye on the security footage. I couldn't wait to see Jen's reaction to everything. It took about another 2 hours for Jen to return. She saw her bags out front and looked around in confusion. She tried to open the door, but that didn't work. She began to get frustrated as she kept trying to unlock the door. When her frustration reached its peak, she began kicking the door. I didn't know what she thought she would accomplish, but it sure was funny as hell to watch her struggle. Eventually, she gave up and sat on the bench outside the door. She looked at her bags and finally saw the note attached to it. The security footage was grainy, but I swear I could see her eyes widen as she understood what the paper said. She looked around as if to see if someone might come out and talk to her, but there was no one. She went and sat back down on the bench and put her head in her hands. She looked like a woman that had lost it all. She picked up her phone and called Robbie, but he never picked up her calls again. She tried Saul, and finally she tried me. I debated picking up the call, but eventually my curiosity got the better of me and I picked it up. "Hey Jen, is everything okay?" "Don't play stupid. You know what you did." "Huh? What are you talking about?" "You tricked me." "I'm really going to need you to start making sense here. I have to get back to work." "You knew that my father bought the house. Yet you never told me about it. You just watched as I said what I said while my father was right there." "Why did you even have to say those things? Even if you thought that I bought the house, shouldn't you have been grateful that I was opening my house to you?" "Shut up. My son would have made sure that I stayed with you." "I don't know what kind of warped perception you have about Saul, but I can assure you he was even less thrilled about you staying with us than me. If anything, he was the one who was ready to throw you out first." "I don't care about that. I'm homeless now, and you have to fix it." "Robbie did his best to provide for you. You bit the hand that fed you, and now you have to face the consequences. I will make sure you regret doing this to me." "If you keep that attitude up, you're not going to get anywhere. Goodbye." It felt so good to finally be able to tell Jen what was on my mind. The woman had it coming for her. She wouldn't have to be a part of our lives anymore, and I was beyond happy about that. Thankfully, Jen left our house without much of a fuss. When Robbie and Saul came over later on in the evening, I replayed the footage back to them and told them about my call with Jen. We shared a hearty laugh together, although Robbie did tell us that he was really disappointed in the way that Jen turned out. I did feel Robbie's pain. I mean, I wouldn't know how to react if my child turned out anything like Jen. But I was also happy that Robbie had set his foot down on Jen. There was only one way to teach spoiled brats a lesson, and that was to take away their privileges. It will be a tough road for Jen, but hopefully she'll learn her lesson, and in time, Saul and I could actually have a decent relationship with her. It's been about 6 months since all of this has happened, and Saul and I are living very happily in our new house. We've been saving up a lot of money, and we're planning on starting a family soon. Robbie is having the time of his life, traveling to various places, and we're happy that he's managed to occupy his time well. Although, whenever he is in town, he makes sure to stay with us, and like always, those times are amazing. If there's one thing I've learned throughout all of this, it was to learn from Robbie's mistakes. I don't want a child like Jen, and I will make sure that my child is raised to be a decent human being. Thanks for listening.